Friendly Neighborhood DJ Xquizit here, day 2, Amsterdam dance event. You know him as System F, you know him as a lot of aliases, but everybody got to know you as Ferry Corsten. How are you doing, man?
I'm great, man. Thank you.
He made a song for his daughter, Made of Love. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, what inspired it?
Basically, when my daughter wasn't born yet, so you know, my wife had this big tummy, and I knew in there was my soon-to-be daughter. So yeah, I was in the middle of an album process, and when you go through that whole thing of, you know, your wife's being pregnant, you're expecting, you're becoming a parent especially for the first time. It's like, oh man, you know, they say when girls are pregnant they fly every direction, but men do also, right? Because your life is about to change. So, and I was in the middle of this album process. So yeah, I really wanted to have something on there that referred to, well, not in words, but refer to that feeling. So you know, Made of Love is almost like a message that like, be strong in a way in life, you know. We're all made of love with the right upbringing and the right support behind you. We'll be all right, you know, no matter what happens.
Now, you mentioned the album making process, LEF. The songs that you've heard of me, you can see that they're clearly inspired by that particular album. The actual building of the album, what's your process? Like, what inspires you and how do you go about it?
An album should be a journey. That's why my last album, Blueprint, was an actual journey, an actual story. But I always feel like, okay, there should be a couple of tracks on the album that people always want to skip back to. You know, when you put the album on, it may not be the first track you really want to listen to, but it's like number 3 or 7, and it's like, you know. So I always look at an album almost as a bridge, where you have the pillars. You know, those are like, whether it's 3, 4, 2 pillars that the bridge has. Those are the big tracks that carry the album, and in between, the road, you know, the surface, that's like, I don't want to call it fillers because they're all amazing tracks in their own right, but they are those other tracks are the road deck, you know what I mean? Anyway, what I'm trying to say is lay out the landscape of how this album should sound. Where are the spikes that, you know, you listen to like 2 songs, and if it doesn't interest you, you kind of want to. So that's the next song should be like really spiky. Oh, like, okay, and now I'm gonna continue again. And the next one is, again, after a while, it's like really spiky. So that's sort of like how I try to, it's like the landscape of the album. Then direction, you know, yeah, what's happening now in music land? What's happening with my own taste? What's happening with where do I see myself next year, 2 years from now as an artist? And those are not easy questions to answer. You know, it's, I wish I had a big crystal ball, you know, but yeah, music is changing so fast.
System F, right? That was a project that was, I assume it was like your offshoot. And Exhale was the one track that hooked me. And that was actually the first track that I heard of Armin van Buuren. Otherwise, I wouldn't have, at least back then, I wouldn't have known of him. The filming of it showed the life of a DJ. How does that differ from 2001 to how it is now?
The only big difference is now that now and then, social media. I almost start to believe well, I know already for a fact that it's almost more about social media than it actually is about the music. Then it was really about the music, you know, and you know, your review in a magazine about the track, or a forum on a blog was talking about it. It was just like, oh yeah, whatever. That's besides the point. The point was the music, and now, yeah, it's everything. The whole industry, the whole scene is so social media driven, where music becomes almost secondary. And yeah, whether that's a good thing or not, that's debatable.
You helped me introduce the Savia name. No other releases, and I made sure that nobody knew that it was DJ Xquizit. Okay. This is a song purposely that I made that was a good song, and I wanted to see how well it did without anybody knowing the background behind it. So it's kind of like the counter where it's like, you signed it, you premiered it, and it did really well, and nobody knew who the hell Savian was.
That's a cool thing sometimes, and that's, because that's how we listen as a label. We listen to demos nowadays, because you get sometimes blinded, or your vision becomes polluted, where you see the name and it's a name that you've seen there. Oh, that must be good then. But maybe it's not even good. So we just nowadays put a track on, listen, and not even look at the screen what name it is or whatever, and then so music first, and then find out the details after, right? And sometimes, yeah, we just bin a track that we don't like, and it's a good name, and I'm like, oh shit, but it's a name.
Later on, you're like, oh, I could have signed that one because that's a pretty big name.
Yeah, but yeah, so yeah.
And now with your the most recent CD, I noticed that there's a lot of collaborations. Is that something that you look forward to, or do you prefer solo tracks?
It's a bit of both, really. It's a fine balance. Working with other people, I just had like a year and a half of Unity releases, collaborations. Working with someone else is cool in the sense that it's always a learning experience, right? Of course, you have your own ways, but I know how to compress a snare drum, yeah, but someone else can just do it differently, and you're like, that's a handy way. You can always learn. So, yeah, but when you're on your own, you're just in the driver's seat. You don't have to think about anybody else. Your vision is just what matters. And with a collab, it's like a shared vision. You both have to be happy. So pros and cons, but depending on the purpose of this track and who you want to reach and what that whole thing is about. Like, okay, yeah, if I do a track together with Ilan Bluestone, we have a different reach together than I have on my own. So what's the purpose of this track? Where do you want to go with that? So yeah, but the album, right? I mean, I'm not a songwriter, so I have to work with other people to come up with great songs because they're better at that. Leave the production to me. That's fine. But the actual songwriting, of course, the vocal part itself, that's all collaboration. Yeah. So. Yeah.